Every little girl, no matter how old she is, wants to be daddy's little girl.
Single parenthood is becoming the new normal. So, why is this such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because there are a lot of issues related to single parenthood that are not being addressed, issues that are affecting society. And it's not things that don't have solutions, it's not things that don't have an effect or an impact on our lives, but it is things that we need to talk about, we need to discuss, we need to delve beyond the surface. So let's go start that conversation.
Praying, sometimes he cried, you know what I'm saying, while he was praying with us as a team. That showed, you know what I mean, that was like our dad.
There's nothing really that can replace the place of a father.
He is the most amazing man that I know.
Is there a benefit to that person being a man as opposed to a woman?
So my father was killed when he was 26 years old. I was 9. I was raised in a single household. My mother was manic depressive.
I can't think of a greater example to show that the parenting that's taking place or lack thereof is the issue.
Women can raise boys, but we can't raise men.
It's hard as a female because we don't have that aggression.
A man amongst men, aggression prevails.
I had a best friend that his father would take us to practice every day. I used to ride my bike for 30 minutes to an hour to his house just to get a ride to practice. And I remember every day I had a question prepared. Like, how do you get into college? What SAT scores you need? You know, how much I got to weigh to play safety in the NFL? And looking back at him, like, I went back and thanked him because he didn't know how much he had helped me just by answering basic questions about collegiate football and the pros. You know, it was something I valued heavily, as opposed to the actual son of the kid, where it wasn't a big deal. He got to talk to his dad every day about sports and everything. And in my situation, I would wait the whole day just to get to ask this man one question, because he knew more than I did. And that was the first time I really noticed, you know, the absence of my father.
There's not a better teaching tool than to have somebody to look at and say, you know, I want to be like that person.
So, how do you all feel about there being legal repercussions for men who father children but do not support them? Is there value in that, though? Because usually what we hear about when it comes to absentee fathers is the lack of financial support, right? Money, money, money. But is there a value other than money?
It just so happens we live in a world where there are single moms raising kids. It's a deficit.
Parents who are not in their children's lives don't realize that, sure, they're robbing the child. They're also robbing themselves of potentially the greatest gift that God's given us.
There are, according to the last Census Bureau statistics, over 17 million children being raised in single-parent homes in the United States. Roughly half of those are boys.
He really spends a lot of quality one-on-one time with him. That's the biggest thing that I noticed, that my husband, I'm sure, didn't have growing up.
For me, not having a father figure who validated me as a female probably has something to do with me having my son at an early age.
I met my dad for the first time, really, when I was about 12 years old. But at that point in my life, at 12 years old, I kind of already knew who I was. I already had an identity. So there was so much after 12 years old that we had to restore that we really, I don't think, ever had the authentic father-son relationship that I think we would have had he been there.
Something that I talk about in my book, I refer to it as the theory of consequence, right? If a boy is not taught that his actions have consequences, then he becomes a man who doesn't understand that his actions have consequences. Do you already know what you're having?
I do. It's going to be a boy. Yep.
Nice.
Yep,
nice.
I'm excited.
Boys are good. Boys are good. I like boys.
Speaking from experience.
Yes,
Speaking
from experience. Yeah. Cool. How you feel about having a boy?
Well, I don't know. I never thought I'd be raising a boy. And as a woman, I wonder, what I can teach him.
My mom was really the nurturer in the house. My mom's the one who, we went running to when we were crying or bleeding. My dad was the one that you knew you couldn't play around with, right? And so the biggest thing that my mom had in her corner was, I'm gonna tell your daddy.
Has fear become a substitution that replaces respect?
The lights came on before I got home. There was a fear I was gonna get lit up.
Hold that thought. Sorry to cut you off. We'll be right back with Now We're Talking.
I do believe that the government has a role to play. I don't believe that the government is a panacea, but certainly I do believe that the government should provide some access to resources.
And by not explaining and instilling in our boys that they are worthy, okay, then they lose the idea that anything that they then do subsequently is also worthy. So it's very important that they see themselves as worthwhile, as valuable, so that they can then put that into the energies and the efforts of what they set out to achieve.
Several years ago, I realized that my life experiences and observations could help millions of single mothers struggling with and agonizing over the daunting task that is successfully raising a young boy into a man. When I was in elementary school, my parents separated, leaving my mother to raise my brother and I alone. Being raised by a single mother had not predestined me for failure or underachievement. Yet, for so many like me, the opposite was true. And I knew it did not have to be this way. My name is Mervyn A. Bourne Jr., and I was raised by a single mother.